All right, good morning. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. If you can't hear me, just let me know. On occasion, I forgot to turn on the microphone. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is going to be those of you, there's a great concern for people that have a criminal record, and a lot of people have them. I mean, it's things happen. Even Martha Stewart, that makes food and other things and has her own sheet line. That lady's set in prison. Half the governors in the country have been in prison. So, I mean, I don't think that criminal convictions are going to stop you from getting Section 8. And we're going to talk about federal code of regulation. And we're also going to take a consensus on what housing authorities, their concept, their take on it, and whether or not they'd want to issue. I think this is an important issue because many people, if they are convicted of a crime, they may have a loved one that is. And you have misdemeanors, you have felonies, and other issues. And I think we need clear answers. And that's what I'm going to try to address. So first thing I'd like to talk about today is going to be CRF. So again, that's going to be the Federal Code of Regulation from Cornell Law, and we're going to go over some of the permissible things. And so, can convicted felons get housing? The answer is yes. And can you get public housing with a misdemeanor? And the answer would be yes, but under certain circumstances. And that also means with barring particular things that they're never going to allow. So, I'm going to go over this real quick. The PHA may prohibit admission of a household to the program if it determines that any household member is currently engaged in or has engaged in uh, criminal activity. Now, that says not so much, but I think that what they're looking for is under subsection 3. And for those of you that want to know what these particular laws are, it's going to be Title 24 CFR 982.553. You can find both links in the lower description if you want to read it for yourself. So, the criminal activity which may threaten the health or safety of the owner, the property management staff, or persons performing a contract of administration, an administrative function, or the responsibility on behalf of a PHA, a contractor, a subcontractor, or its agent. So they most PHAs are going to establish two types of rules: one in which there are crimes that have been committed within the last 5 years, and those that have been created in the last 10 years. Now, it's also important to understand that if they suspect that you have ongoing criminal activity without a conviction, that could also potentially eliminate your ability to get housing. In other words, your demeanor, the way that you're acting, and the behavior could be suspect to you being a problem on a property, or they may believe that you would have a low propensity of utilizing a voucher if they gave it to you because you're clearly covered in tattoos up to your head. Now, there are discrimination policies that have to be met in order for that to happen. So they can't arbitrarily just say, oh, well, you know what, you look like trouble. We're not going to have you. And that's really not what this video is about. But, we're already in a prejudicial and biased system that's already, as many of you know, getting vouchers is not easy. And then you add this other functionality, with criminal records, it may be an issue. So if I think in the case of the last 5 years, there are particulars, and I'm going to see if I can give them to you real quick. If you have been registered as a lifetime SO, which is sex offender in any state, you can forget about ever utilizing any federal program, period. There's not going to be any exceptions to that. If you've ever been convicted of manufacturing methamphetamine in any form, including prior housing, prior having a voucher and then doing it, you can forget about it. So pretty much meth convictions for the most part will not ever be accepted. Why do they focus on that specific drug compared to crack cocaine and heroin and other issues? I don't know, but apparently some lawmaker had a problem with it, and now it's an invention that's there. If you have been convicted of a federally assisted housing for drug related criminal activity in the past 3 to 5 years, you have completed a drug treatment program approved by the PHA, the ban is 3 years. So let me explain what that might potentially mean for most of you. you got a Section 8 voucher, and your intent is that you're pretty much a drug dealer. You got in quietly with no record. Now you've gone on that property. Um, you've come back to them, and the issue would be this: after about 3 to 5 years, they may no longer consider your drug conviction if you successfully completed a drug program and you're no longer a drug dealer. They would likely let you back into project-based housing, but it's highly unlikely to ever give you a housing choice voucher where you can simply use it wherever you want it. Okay. And then, of course, they're going to have their own regulations. It's important to understand that this is not a across the board program. In other words, one housing authority may view your criminal convictions in a different manner, and what they find acceptable in one county may be different than another, and the same may be as such for different states. You can rest assured that if you're going to live in major metropolitan areas where drug related issues and sexual offender issues are higher in that area, the rules will be tougher. I think that most of you would find if you simply left the big metropolitan areas, population of million or better, and went to smaller counties, that the rules would be more relaxed and more forgiving. It is only when you're attempting to do this in the bigger ones. So 3 to 5 years on that. You might be rejected if a background check reveals that you have drug related crimes, period. And that's, again, up to them. Also, violent crimes, because housing does include VAWA, which is Domestic Violence Against Women Act, and those that are seeking to flee from that. If you're the type of person that's out there going hurting and injuring and other people for whatever reason, they may decline to have you on the property depending on the type of violent crime. Okay. And if it's domestic violence, you can almost bet they're going to decline you. What I mean by domestic violence is you're committing these acts against a human being, a senior, a child, or a pet. I know, for instance, I work with over 200 landlords. I will not work with landlords that allow those type of tenants in there because it's in direct conflict of VAWA. In other words, it's simply not safe. And besides that, it does also show the character level of the person if you're willing to abuse animals and women and seniors and the vulnerable and the disabled. Okay, to me, that's probably one of the most heinous things that people could do. However, over a time period, if it's not ever happened again in a one-time off event, then there may be some considerations to that. Other crimes that could threaten the health and safety or right of peaceful enjoyment of the building by other residents. Let's talk about that. There are people that drink too much, they wander around the property, they create chaos. There are also other people that suffer from mental issues that may display badly in the property. I don't think that they're going to home in on that too much in most situations to give you a voucher because they're really not going to know your behavior until you get there. But if you've been recognized as a nuisance before, they certainly could reject your application based on that. But it'd be pretty hard to prove. The PHA will also look, and by the way, if you want to know what the acronym PHA means, Public Housing Authority, better known as Housing Authority, we'll look at arrests and convictions that have occurred in the past 5 years. It's almost a safer bet at 10 years. Some people asked about whether or not if you've had your conviction dismissed or expunged. In most cases, I think expunction, if it's been expunged, it won't be there. They may look at the arrest. Most of you don't realize this, but you have an arrest record and you have a conviction record, which means that even if you weren't convicted of a crime, it still might show that you've been arrested for something, but yet not convicted. It's a very unfair system having that, but it is actually your job to get those arrest records removed, especially if you've not been convicted. That you should attempt to get it removed. Um, Anyways, the PHA may look at the dismissed convictions. If asked, you should reveal the convictions, but the convictions have been dismissed pursuant Penal Code Section 1203.4 or 1203.4A. In other words, your verbatim Federal Code regulation on Penal Code. It is important to remember the PHA can reject you if you lie during the application process. Now, that's more of a scare tactic. But I think in most circumstances, they will run a nationwide check and it likely will reveal most things within 10 years. So, a lot of PHAs will consider individual circumstances if you talk with them. Now, the consideration of circumstances becomes less. They're less to consider those situations when you get into big ones like, say, Los Angeles. They really don't give a damn. So, you really need to go to. That's why I keep telling you guys, if you've got a complicated case, approaching counties and other areas with smaller, where you can reach these people on a human level. When you deal with the big city, they don't give a damn. Okay, the housing authorities usually are pretty nasty to deal with in the big cities, so you might find things to be a little bit better in the small towns. So the housing authority will consider the number of mitigating circumstances. Mitigating circumstances are facts that put your criminal record in context and show that you'll not commit crimes in the future. For those of you, I get a lot of calls about it. Oh, I committed crimes 20, 30, 50 years ago. I think at that point we realize that a person's not going to revisit it. I think that most people, after about 10 years, are not going to probably revisit those type of problems, and it would carry very little weight with the housing authority with a felony or misdemeanor. So let's talk about some of the examples. You've made a lot of positive changes in your life. Maybe now you're a preacher, or you're doing other things, or maybe you get this new job paying 100K. Of course, if you're making that kind of money, you probably don't need a voucher. Also, they'll look at your educational background, whether or not you're going to school, trade school, you're participating in different types of treatment programs over a course of time. If your convictions have been dismissed and expunged under that penal code, you may bring that up. If your job is, well, we're not going to include the last one because I don't really think that's applicable. So one thing you can do is bring letters of support with you from other leaders in the community, as well as in the church or whatever it is that you believe in. And those also is having personal references and so on. But it needs to be from people that are obviously important for them to take that under consideration. You should gather letters from your parole, probation officer, teacher, employer, treatment program, social worker, neighbor, current and prior landlords, letters that show that you are respectful and responsible. It is absolutely your responsibility to produce the evidence that you are actually changed. Just saying that you've changed doesn't mean jack to anybody. I deal with enough landlords with big properties ranging from 50 to 200, 500 units. Look, unless you can come in with a folder and show me, okay, evidence printed out where I can verify that you have changed, then you can forget about this. And PHAs want the same thing. You need to be able to present your case in a nice, neat folder and show them the real evidence. Nobody's going to take anybody's word for it. People lie all the time. Nobody wants to hear you verbalize jack. Evidence is the only thing you got. So you should show the PHA that. Also, if you're also dealing with a different set of circumstances currently in your life, like you may have acquired a disability, and so by virtue of disability, you no longer may have legs, could walk, whatever, which would render you moot in the respect that you're going to be out there robbing banks in a wheelchair. You see my point? Other than that, it's important to show that there was a recovery process, especially those you're dealing with alcohol and drug related crimes. If you can establish, now look, if you go out and commit a crime, but you can't show at any point that you've gone to AA or some type of recovery through psychiatry, then how do they really know that you've done anything to the benefit of trying to change yourself, other than the fact that there's a gap of time? So it would be to your benefit if you've been really drug related or a alcohol related crime to have completed some kind of process, whether it's a pain in the ass or not. You need that evidence. Okay. Now you have to understand that, like a lot of things, like we pay taxes for a road, and you go out there and you get a driver's license, right? Driving on a road is a privilege. It is not a guarantee. Well, let's equate you getting that voucher with a felony and misdemeanor. It is a privilege, not a guarantee. And so there's no definitive laws that say they have to accept you. I'm just telling you, based on the general consensus of all PHAs, that yes, misdemeanors and felonies are accepted with the exception of SO, sex offenders, and those that have dealt with methamphetamine manufacturing. Okay. Outside of that, your odds have become pretty good at 5 years, and they become really great after 10. And to be frank with you, I've worked with a lot of clients, some that have actually, the bank robber out of clients. Guy, I think, robbed like 7 banks, got out of federal prison 30 days later. I helped him get housing. Okay. So it really just comes down to your situation and what's happened. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a few links for you guys. Now, you're welcome. As I always tell people, you can call the housing authority and have that discussion and figure it out that way. Also, you're welcome to call a HUD specialist. They usually give you 2 or 3 minutes. You can ask them questions. In addition to that, you got 211, and you can ask them, or you can call the local housing. And those are your 3 options for figuring out how this works. If you don't, then I would suggest you find a consultant. It does not have to be me. Obviously, I've been doing this a long time, hundreds of videos, and I've been on YouTube. I think I'm ranked #1 for just about every topic related to this matter. So anyways, I'm going to link that up here and here. Also, I'm going to link up the CFRs. So for those of you that want to learn on your own and read this for yourself, I'm going to link up the first one. And again, this stuff's in the description. And there's link #1. And we're using Cornell law for this. So Title 24, CFR 982.553. Denial of assistance, and then we can do CFR Title 24, CFR 960.203. This is the one that's a little bit better. I would encourage you to read both. It's not going to be a silver bullet for your case, but it's going to help you establish what works, what doesn't. Look, I deal with a lot of people that don't have criminal records that do things, okay? Having a criminal record is just another thing in life. You're automatically dismissing things like, oh, by the way, there's Kitty, if you didn't see her. Now, y'all know how I am with cats. If you've been around my channel long enough, you know I rescue cats. So if y'all see a few pop up around here, that's the herd. So I think it's a beneficial tool. Look, housing authorities have a lot on their plate, and the last thing they're going to be genuinely concerned with is if you have some extraordinary record. I think if you've made a few mistakes, then they'd be willing to work with you. If it's been over 10 years, you have a very good chance. At that point, if you've stopped, and the main thing is, a lot of you guys just have this gap, and you no longer commit a crime or have committed crimes, but you're not showing any evidence outside of your just good word. You're not showing any evidence that people in the community see you changing, that you went out and got a master's degree. They don't see that you're now doing well for yourself. You don't have any letters of referral. You're just walking in your good word. Well, nobody wants to hear that. Okay, so just to be clear, nobody's going to take your word for criminal convictions. So I think this does show at this point that you should. It would be wise of you to work with a consultant in this respect. Like, again, I'm not here to sell you my service, but I think it would be good because I think we could put together one of the best cases for you to be able to get housing. And there are other types of housing that are a lot more lenient that are also federally funded under continuum of care, coordinated entry, BOSS system, BOSS, and so on, that might be able to allow you to get into housing without so much of a microscope on you. So those are the things I want to cover. Now we're going to talk about spice up the video a little bit because that's what I want to talk about. But since this is a live video, if you have questions, at least for April 3rd, which is today, this video will be over here shortly. And then after that, the live chat on the right side of the screen and so on, you won't be able to do anymore, okay? But if you have questions, you should ask now. If not, then you're probably just looking at an old video. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the videos for this month. So it is March 3rd, 2022. We're in a transition right now. I'm moving my office about 13 miles away to a new place. I've been doing that. I've been extremely tired. Most of you have noticed a big reduction of videos that I've made. That's simply because I'm tired. And it's a lot of work getting that done. I know next weekend we're going to do that again. Now this summer, going to be closing down for a bit because the housing market for Section 8 and so on is getting extremely difficult, almost to the point where there's not a great deal about a lot of vouchers left. Now, I'm not saying as of now, but by the time we reach the hottest part of the summer, it's going to be pretty impossible to get housing vouchers. Okay, there's only going to be a few venues left. A lot of housing authorities are out. I'm seeing the numbers decline at exasperating rates around the nation. So, I'm going to be now one thing I posted about today on a YouTube channel, and I'm going to give you this link real quick. Let's see if I've got it ready. It's our community page. It's kind of like Facebook. It's kind of like without me making a video, I can give you all updates. It'll be on this link and this page. going to be taking a trip to a beach, and was hoping to get some ideas from you guys. Now I know this seems a bit strange to make a video, to make videos, obviously about Section 8 and criminal history, and then we go to this. But I always like to keep my videos interesting. I'm looking for recommendations in the southern states, Florida, and so on, for nice places. So if y'all want to check out that, then do that. And I see we got a comment here. Remy Reams. Thank you for everything you do. I am a probation officer, and this issue is important to me. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Reams, if you have parolees, or I don't know if you're dealing with parolees or you're dealing with those that are on probation, yeah, you should talk to your clients, because I've definitely been able to help people. Now, I'm not suggesting that every situation or crime can get through, but I think that if time's been served and they've been through treatment, which I believe most release programs from county and federal prison, so county, state, and federal prison, this could be of use to your clients. So, yeah, definitely. Because I don't think that we need to have prisoners, or, well, not even prisoners, people with former convicts and so on, roaming around the streets and homeless shelters. You can certainly get housing. If not, we can get them rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and many other things. People are often defeated mentally by this process before they even try. And so I'm trying to open that door. There are going to be a lot of people that don't like this video because of that. But the reality is we're all still human in the end. So Courtney Levy, my fiance, who is currently incarcerated, gets out in a couple of months, and I'm really having a hard time finding a landlord that is felony friendly. Please help. Courtney, that is a very difficult thing. It is difficult. The problem is, Courtney, I got to know a lot more about what he's done, how many convictions he actually has, what they're for. Clearly, what part of the nation you're in. Now, there's ways to get around this. There's second chance and so on, but it's a heck of a housing search. So, Courtney, I'd tell you, you should probably just reach out to me personally, because I don't want you to broadcast your personal information. And also, because I work with so many landlords around the nation, and I actually am the person with a great number of landlords in states from Florida to California. I do the application process, which means I make or break whether or not a person moves in. Now, most of you know, I'm very reasonable when it comes to this. It wouldn't matter to me if you had robbed 100 banks. If I think that you're done doing those things, and you're willing to take that second chance seriously, that you treat it as a second chance and not just some situation where you feel you're going to push me by law. I have the ability sometimes to help people get housing. Unfortunately, I don't have landlords in every city and state in the country, but I do in many of the major places. So it does make a difference when you have somebody that truly understands that. And does actually, I am definitely concerned about people that are coming out of county jails, federal prisons, so on. Not everybody's committed a crime is intended to go on to a life of crime. And so I think that we need to be reasonable when it comes to housing. We can't simply have people living on the street and stuff like that. So beyond that, yeah, we're moving the office, and I wanted to show you all the recovery cat that I work with. Many of y'all know I do videos. My videos include my cats, and this is a recovery we had. This little girl here was nearly starved to death by her owners and abused pretty badly. Um, I managed to get her, and she was barely 4 pounds. And she spent 10 days in a kind hospital. She had IVs in both arms, and she couldn't even eat or drink anymore. Uh, Before I got her there to the hospital that day, the vet told me she would have died by that night. So you could tell when an animal's lost its will to live. So, but the good news is she has recovered. So we managed to bring her back to life and restore. So I don't just save people. I often save cats. Why just cats? Well, I had a rough patch in my own life, and I could think of a cat being probably the one person, the one living thing that I actually cared at the time. So I've tried to repay that debt for over, gosh, 30 years. And I would have dogs, but I don't think my cats would appreciate. So, anyways, I want to give an update on her. She's gaining weight magnificently. She's free. She has food and water 24 hours a day, and I quite enjoy her gratitude for helping saving her. You can tell when somebody or a living thing appreciates you, And I could certainly see that with her. So I thought I'd bring that up because people wanted to know about her and what happened with her. It was very expensive, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So, all right, guys, I'm looking at these comments. It doesn't look like anybody else has any questions at this point. So, again, I'd encourage y'all, if you're struggling with housing, you've got a conviction for misdemeanors, felonies, and so on, and you're struggling with dealing with your PHA, or would like to figure out a better way to do it, then I'm happy to work with clients. Clearly, you can do this on your own for free. Again, 211, calling the housing authority or calling a HUD specialist. Those guys don't have the time probably to handle a case. They just kind of give you arbitrary information. But, I always like for people to fairly know where all they could get consulting advice and so on if it's necessary. Of course, the housing search, as Courtney Levy had mentioned, that process by itself is extensive and it takes time. If you're going out there and you're shooting in the dark, what I mean by that is you're going out there and you're just looking for random places in the hopes that somebody on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace is going to rent to you. There's probably an easier way to do this because over time I've discovered a better, faster method to finding housing than just shooting in the dark, because there are ways where you can get consideration. One particular person had 11 felonies, 7 misdemeanors. But they abruptly in their life, they abruptly decided they were done, and they went on to make a really good income, and they're doing well. However, they were still low income for the most part, and we were able to get them housing. So I do have faith that in my ability, at least to work with clients. Now, we should also understand that there's no guarantees. If I'm to tell you that there's a 100% chance you're going to get housing or a voucher, then I would be selling a fraud. Okay. I don't guarantee that. Only about 93% of the time does it actually work out for clients. Sometimes cases are too sophisticated. Sometimes the people that I work with are too difficult or suffer from developmental issues or other mental health problems that prevent them from successfully or competently following my advice or participating. I also have clients that believe that casework's a lot like Amazon. And they'll tell me things like, well, just call me next month when you have the voucher in the mail. That's where I hang up the phone and refund money because, at that point, I believe that we're dealing with delusions or the possibility that there are other issues going on. Recently, I had a client's mother reach out to me. She told me, despite my filings with the state of Texas, a corporation, 20 years of business, 400 videos, working with witnesses, being on a witness stand, that I had committed a fraud. And here's the lady that her daughter has signed a contractual agreement now, accepting those terms. So sometimes I deal with mentally imbalanced people that just are grandiose. But for most of the people that I deal with, y'all doing well. You understand that the process is a gigantic pain in the ass, that you have to be willing to participate throughout that process, that it's not quick, that there's a lot to understand, to read. And then you also understand that dealing with Section 8, okay, the housing authorities and HUD and so on. It's not easy. Sometimes the employees that work at those agencies are condescending, rude, sometimes harassing. They don't care, and a lot of them don't. They don't give a damn whether you get housing or not. They're there to run the numbers, and you meet their criteria or you don't. So if anybody's under the delusion that I'm out here, I'm a fixer, maybe so, but there's no absolute guarantee. I don't possess any crystal ball. But I think that if I couldn't do well over these years, then there would be a lot of extraordinarily angry people leaving really shitty comments in every video, that my reputation would have been destroyed a long time ago. And you don't play with the federal government. Otherwise, you land in a federal court. Okay. So, that's the thing. We have to have realistic expectations. It's good to work with somebody that's been in the system longer than other people. Look, a lot of people don't like doing this kind of work because we deal with people that are often, the clients can be condescending and rude and difficult. And so, yeah, you put up with a lot of shit doing the work I do. But in the long run, I find that most people have benefited greatly from my attempts to help walk people through the system. And a lot of you guys, I've given procedures, policy, data manuals, U.S. code, title code, penal code. It helped you try to flip part of your cases, to mediate between housing authorities, to mediate between HUD. I've never once charged anybody to fill out an application. That'd be a violation of law. You got Google's filled with people that are, oh yeah, just give us a social security number. We'll help you apply at every housing authority in America. You just got scammed from some little guy sitting in Russia, So that's the reality. It's a tough market, and look, because you're dealing with your housing, there's just no get it fast. I mean, the quickest you usually with convictions would be CES system, coordinated entry and housing first. You get the right score, you're in. Now, sometimes if you're in a major city, too many applicants with a high score could cause a waiting list. But for as many places, nice thing about CES and then these other systems that allow you to get emergency housing voucher, that might allow you to get Section 8, might get you rapid housing with PSH. The nice part is if you fail in one county, you could catch the bus to the next county and repeat the process again, maybe with more success. So it gives you a lot of opportunities. I think it's not so much a question of will I get a voucher? How long will it take? And how many counties do I need to visit? Look, you got to pull every trick out the book if that's what it takes to get housing. You don't just stop at one thing. If you think the system is fair, you're delusional. The system is not fair because it's designed badly. There's a difference, I think, between a rigged system, that means prejudicial, biased, and so on, right? Well, this system is also archaic and designed poorly and administered poorly, in my opinion. And so, if you're going to deal with a rigged system, then you have to have an advantage. I'm not suggesting anybody needs to lie, cheat, or steal, but you need to understand that if they made the mistake of creating holes in the system, then you should be the first one walking through those. If you can do so without lying and without violating U.S. code, okay? And that's part of what I do. I probe for weaknesses all in system operation manuals and so on. Their policies, their procedures. And if I probe and I find that door, we'll certainly walk our client right through it. If they want to change, if they don't like it, they need to change the law. And otherwise, I've done little more than what an attorney would have done with his client, get him off of murder. My only difference is I'm not getting anybody off murder. I'm simply helping them get housing when it was an impossibility. Big difference, right? Last time I mentioned I'm going to be doing an interview with PBS affiliates. These are some young ladies out of Arizona State. Hopefully they give me a call today. And we're going to be talking about this subject matter specifically. And they're going to be publishing that story for the news agency. Let me see if I can give you all that information real quick because this is just kind of a random discussion, but I was going to bring it up anyways. So just bear with me and I'll tell you exactly where y'all can look up the news story and I'll publish it when they get through publishing it themselves. So as y'all know, I get contacted by reporters and all kinds of people from around the nation about different subject matters. And this is one of the earlier ones that I remember. So it's going to be for Cry Night News, which is Arizona's PBS affiliate, which is run by Arizona State University Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. And it's a couple of students there, and they're writing I guess a larger story. This is the second interview I've done with them, and I think they're addressing a very important topic. So I'm curious to see what information I can provide to them that would be useful in the search. So it's really just getting out there, trying to help you guys get things done. And, the last thing I'm going to leave you with before I kind of wrap up the video is this. Make no mistake, it's still a pandemic. It's still rough times. We, clearly have some issues with the Ukraine and Russia. The housing market is white hot, on fire. A lot of landlords didn't get paid their rent. So there's so many things in the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, that have made this housing market crazy. And look, what landlords are, willing to deal with tenants and their vouchers, but what happens when the house is worth 30% more? They want to sell it. So there's all kinds of dynamics at play that are changing month by month with every housing authority, the availability of housing. So I'm finding what used to be the hardest thing was the housing search. Now what I'm finding is, it's a combination of that and the voucher itself. And so we have to be mindful. Just because you get a voucher, that's half the battle. It doesn't mean jack if you can't use it. So understanding whether or not you're able to successfully use that in a community, you know, a lot of people get these vouchers, they want to port them different places. And the reality is, if they port it there and can't utilize that voucher quickly enough, then you lose it. There's a lot of communities handing out vouchers like they're just lollipops. And the reality is that, they know damn well they look good for handing out the vouchers, but here's the problem: they don't look so good for the fact that they are handing out vouchers in a market where there's no landlords to rent. You see what the problem is with that? I'm seeing that play out a lot. Look at Seattle. Seattle had 1,400 vouchers. Only 16 people, 16% accepted. There's nothing to rent at that point. So what was the point of the vouchers? So if you see someone at a housing authority, sorry, my cat, she's rolling around my legs. Hey, mama, she wants my attention, and I'm sitting on this video too long. So, yeah, if you see a housing authority that's got way too many vouchers, I'd be concerned about that. Look, I would be asking whether or not you can do portability very quickly. Come on, girl. Yeah, she's up. She needs some attention today, and unfortunately, it ended up happening during the video. So, yeah, I think that's it's worth the effort. And the main thing is, guys, don't accept no. We're all raised that way, most of us are. When somebody says no, that means no. Look, with housing, it's no means yes. Don't ever give up. If they tell you no, there's a will, there's a way, and that otherwise, my job and what I do and how I work with clients would have failed a long time ago if I accepted no every time somebody just said no. As a matter of policy, no does not exist in the work I do. We just keep moving. So. Well, look, guys, I'm going to take a look at these comments, and I'm going to try to answer as many as I can, and then after that, we'll close this out. So, it looks like Beverly Sanders, can I get in touch with you? I have a very important question. Yes, Beverly, I'm going to post a link up for you. If you post the questions, guys, I'm going to get to them. I realize y'all have several. Now, because we are on YouTube, I'm not going to publish my phone number and email there. You'll just simply have to... visit these websites. You'll find the information you're looking for. So it looks like Pimp Daddy said Nutcase 101. So we're going to put Pimp Daddy out the channel. Yeah. All right, Pimp Daddy, you're now banned for life. All right, so moving on. So Maurice Owens, what if you already have housing and catch a felony charge? Would they put you out of housing? Well, it depends on what you've been convicted of. And also, part of your HAP contract is reporting changes, okay, to your case. And if you've been convicted of a crime, then I would suggest that you let them know. I don't think it's going to be explosive, but they may choose to not renew your lease, okay? But I don't think they're going to eject you out the system. Beverly Sanders, the supervisor at the PHA where I live is trying to terminate my Section 8. I'm so scared. Well, what you'd want to do, Beverly, sometimes when the housing authorities want to start acting that way, do portability. So portability means you can take your voucher, go to another county where it's outside the jurisdiction of the lady that has an issue with you, and that will remove her control and her ability to stop your voucher. So I would say speaking to the portability specialist at the housing authority, and then just simply you're going to have to uproot your life and go to a different county where they no longer have oversight or control of your case, and that should absolve you of the problem. If not, then you need to speak with a legal advocate in your city to try to counter whatever activities. They need good causes to reason to do so or show some type of violation. They can't just simply request that. So, all right. It looks like that's all the questions for now. So, anyways, I've enjoyed talking with y'all. Hopefully, y'all found the video useful. And I'm here if you need me. And so, you have those links down there. Next couple of days, I'll be posting a video about Q&A, which will be general Section 8 questions for those of you that have general questions, and then we can go over that, okay? And looks like we have one more here, Luis Yost. Thank you so much. You were informed. A tenant union, still unsafe. I'll be in touch. All right, Ms. Yost, I'm looking forward to speaking with you. For now, I'm heading to the new house, and we're going to move all these cats and the rest of the office, and then we'll be recording some different videos at a couple of days. All right. Bye-bye.